I love brandy, you know, I really do.
Good for you.
Hollywood's red carpet has always had a hidden side, one where fame, pressure, and addiction intertwine. Today, we're looking at 20 stars whose lives took dramatic turns due to alcohol. From legends who never escaped its grip to those who turned it around, these stories reveal the real cost of fame. Let's see how addiction shaped and sometimes shattered their lives from their prime days to now. Number 20, Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr.'s experience with alcohol addiction is one of the most well-known, as he is now one of the most highly paid actors in show business. Not long ago, however, he was practically unhireable due to his alcohol and drug addiction. He was arrested in 1996 due to possession of heroin and cocaine and found it challenging to escape the cycle of substance abuse. Downey Jr. eventually sought help and made a commercial resurgence in the following years, starring in blockbuster films like Iron Man and The Avengers. According to a 2013 interview, the actor credits a combination of 12-step programs, yoga, meditation, and therapy with keeping him sober. Now in recovery for over 15 years, Robert Downey Jr.'s career seems to continue improving the longer he stays sober, making his comeback a very impressive and inspiring story. Number 19, Lindsay Lohan. Like many child actresses, Lindsay Lohan has publicly battled with drug and alcohol use disorder. She was forced to take over her own management from her troubled parents, eventually leading to exhaustion and a 2006 hospital stay during filming. She was deemed unreliable by producers, culminating in a series of arrests and repeated visits to addiction treatment centers. Today, Lohan is much healthier and places great importance on routine and spirituality. She hasn't been in legal trouble since 2013 and lives a sober lifestyle. Documenting her meditation and exercise routine, she said, "I meditate daily. Once a day, I take 10 to 15 minutes, and I do some breathing work paired with some spiritual prayers. It gives me time to focus." In March 2022, she signed a deal to star in 3 Netflix projects. Lohan is among the celebrities affected by alcohol who have since made an inspiring comeback.
They'll be pouring lead at you until they get that reward. And Brother Willie will be in the clear.
Number 18, Barbara Payton. Starting out as a small-town Minnesota girl, this gorgeous blonde ran off to Hollywood, and it wasn't long before she became one of the biggest stars of the 1940s and 50s, starring alongside acting greats like James Cagney, Gary Cooper, and Gregory Peck. However, Payton's personal life was a chaotic disaster, chock full of affairs with seemingly every man she encountered, violent relationships, shoplifting, prostitution, and numerous run-ins with the police. The only thing that seemed to offer any stability to this troubled actress was the bottle. Primarily in the 1960s, her alcoholism worsened. After losing custody of her son due to her debauched lifestyle, Payton's life unraveled even further. For instance, in 1962, she was charged with public drunkenness and being found sleeping at a Sunset Boulevard bus stop dressed in a coat and bathing suit, and she was arrested the same year for drunken disorderly conduct during a boisterous afternoon party. It wasn't long after that she was spending night after night in bars and pubs, and at the age of 39, she was found dead of heart and liver disease, her appearance so altered that she could hardly be identified.
Really gonna send that script to DeMille?
Yes, I am. This is the day. Here's the chart from my astrologer. She read
Number 17, William Holden. William Holden was a huge star during the Golden Age, headlining classics like Sunset Boulevard and Stalag 17. He had fame, fortune, and talent, everything most people dream of. But despite his success, Holden battled a lifelong addiction to alcohol, and it ultimately destroyed him. By the time his career slowed down, so did his grip on reality. Holden spent his later years drinking heavily at his oceanfront condo in Santa Monica, isolating himself from the world. Friends say his drinking got so bad that he was barely recognizable from his younger years. Then came the night that ended it all. After downing multiple bottles of vodka, Holden fell and hit his head on the sharp edge of a table or a counter. The injury wasn't immediately fatal. It could have been treated, but he was so drunk that he couldn't even get up to call for help. Instead, he lay there, bleeding out on the floor, alone. He was just 63 years old when he died. Even his longtime friend and director Billy Wilder called it a lousy fade out for a great guy. It's heartbreaking to think someone who lit up the screen for decades could meet such a tragic and preventable end. Number 16, Bernard Lee. Bernard Lee was a veteran actor with a career that spanned 50 years and over 100 film and TV credits. He started acting at 6, working in stage productions after becoming a recognizable face in film. But most people know him best as M, the no-nonsense head of the British Secret Service in 11 James Bond movies. Despite his success, Lee's personal life was marked by tragedy. After losing his wife in a devastating house fire, his world spiraled out of control. He was also mugged and left struggling with unpaid debts. All of this pushed him into depression and a drinking problem. His alcohol addiction became so bad that producers allegedly locked him in his dressing room during breaks while filming the Edgar Wallace TV series just to keep him away from booze. But Lee wasn't one to give up easily. He actually hired someone to feed a straw through the keyhole so he could keep drinking. That's how strong his addiction was. Even legendary drinker Richard Burton reportedly admitted that Lee could outdrink him any day. But the years of hard living took their toll. At 73, Lee died from stomach cancer, a disease often linked to heavy alcohol use.
Panic. Who does it belong to?
Belongs to a picture director, a guy named Sullivan.
Oh.
Number 15, Veronica Lake. Veronica Lake was one of Hollywood's most iconic stars during its golden age, known for her sultry looks and signature peekaboo hairstyle. But behind the glamour, she struggled with schizophrenia and manic depression, which fueled a lifelong battle with alcohol. Her erratic behavior made her difficult to work with, and after her career faded, many in Hollywood didn't look back. Her decline was steep. In her later years, Lake tried to visit Paramount Studios, but security turned her away. The guard didn't recognize her name, and even after calling higher-ups, no one remembered her. Lake died in 1973 at just 50 years old from kidney failure, complicated by hepatitis, both linked to years of heavy drinking. Her life had spiraled so far out of control that by the time her star was placed on Hollywood Boulevard, the only attendees were her, a reporter, and a passerby. By then, she was living in a flophouse, working as a barmaid to support her drinking. When she died, her ashes reportedly went unclaimed for years until a friend finally paid for their storage and cremation. Some say they were scattered at sea, while others claim they ended up in an antique shop.
This is some organ.
What do you know about it?
I'm an organist.
Hmm?
Number 14, Dennis Price. Dennis Price seemed to have it all: good looks, charm, and an aristocratic background that practically screamed success. He quickly became a matinee idol, starring on stage before hitting it big in the 1949 comedy Kind Hearts and Coronets. At one point, Price was right up there with legends like Alec Guinness and James Mason. But behind the scenes, his life was unraveling. The cracks started to show in the 1950s. Struggling with a failing marriage and hiding his homosexuality in an era that wasn't exactly forgiving, Price's personal turmoil pushed him over the edge, literally. In 1954, he dressed in his best suit, stuck his head in the oven, and tried to end it all. Luckily, a cleaning woman found him in time, but his downward spiral didn't stop there.
Tired of expensive, low-effort script writers for your YouTube channel? Autoscripter.ai is the ultimate solution. Say goodbye to low-quality, poorly retention amateur scripts that fail to generate thousands of views for your channel. At a fraction of the cost, Autoscripter.ai helps your videos go viral. In just 3 steps, Autoscripter.ai creates a polished script tailored to your needs. Just input your title concept, select your tone and style. The intuitive interface makes editing and refining effortless, fast, smart, and trusted by hundreds of satisfied users who have already discovered the amazing tool. Start your free trial today and watch Autoscripter.ai transform your YouTube channel. Just click the link in the video description below now.
Instead of a quick exit, Price turned to alcohol and began a slower self-destruction. Co-stars claimed he started his mornings with a crate of Guinness and polished it off by day's end, along with plenty of scotch. He even showed up to work with booze in a shopping bag and once wandered on stage during the wrong act of a play. By the end, his suave persona was gone, replaced by a man ravaged by alcoholism. Price died of liver cirrhosis, leaving behind a legacy of talent and tragedy.
Keep that up. Evidently do.
Number 13, W.C. Fields. W.C. Fields wasn't just a Hollywood legend. He was practically the poster child for drinking both on and off the screen. Known for his quick wit and razor-sharp comedic timing, Fields turned his love of booze into part of his public persona. He was rarely seen without a flask in hand, often filled with what he called his favorite medicine. He even jokes "I never drink water because of the disgusting things that fish do in it." But behind the jokes and iconic one-liners, his drinking spiraled out of control. It wasn't just a habit, it was a lifestyle. Fields would often hide alcohol on set, keeping it in disguised bottles or props to make sure he never ran dry during filming. Directors and co-stars knew about his addiction but tolerated it, at least for a while, because he was such a box office draw. Eventually, though, the booze caught up with him. Fields burned bridges, lost work, and alienated friends. His health suffered too. Years of heavy drinking left him frail and riddled with illness. In 1946, at the age of 66, Fields died of a stomach hemorrhage, likely the result of decades of alcohol abuse. Number 12. Andre the Giant. Andre the Giant, famously dubbed the eighth wonder of the world, was a towering figure in every sense. Standing 7 feet 4 inches and weighing over 500 pounds, the French wrestling icon dominated the ring and later won hearts as Fezzik in The Princess Bride. He also appeared in Conan the Destroyer, Mickey and Maude, and various TV shows, but his larger-than-life presence wasn't limited to Hollywood or wrestling. His drinking habits were just as legendary. Andre reportedly consumed around 7,000 calories of alcohol daily. During one epic 6-hour binge, he downed 119 bottles of beer before passing out in a hotel hallway. Instead of helping him to his room, his friends covered him with a tarp and let him sleep it off. In another instance, after being told he could drink as long as he wanted, he stayed at a Kansas City bar until 5 a.m., polishing off 40 vodka tonics. He flipped a car with men inside after they mocked him in a bar. Another time, he and fellow wrestler Dusty Rhodes took off in stolen horse-drawn carriages through Manhattan. Though Andre's condition, acromegaly, caused health complications, experts believe his drinking worsened his diabetes and heart problems. He died of heart failure at just 46, leaving behind an unmatched legacy in wrestling, film, and larger-than-life excess. Number 11. Tobey Maguire. Next up is Spider-Man himself, Tobey Maguire. While most people remember him swinging through skyscrapers, few know the struggles he faced behind the scenes. During the early 2000s, when his career skyrocketed, the pressures of fame became overwhelming. Instead of reaching out for help, Tobey turned to alcohol and drugs, a choice that would haunt him for years. This wasn't just a phase. It deeply affected his behavior, strained friendships, and damaged his reputation. The once rising star found himself spiraling, battling addiction while trying to hold on to his career. It was a low point that could have easily derailed him completely. Fortunately, Tobey recognized the danger he was in. By the mid-2000s, he took responsibility for his actions and checked himself into rehab. It wasn't an easy road, but his decision to get help marked a turning point. He gradually stepped away from the Hollywood party scene, focusing instead on rebuilding his personal and professional life. These days, Tobey keeps things pretty much low-key. He's prioritized family, shifted his focus to producing films, and even dedicated time to philanthropy. While he's no longer the flashy A-lister he once was, his story is a reminder that second chances are possible, even in Hollywood.
Oh, no, I'm not married.
What a shame.
Number 10. Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen, Hollywood's original bad boy. At one point, he was the highest paid actor on television, pulling in $1.8 million per episode of 2.5 Men. But behind the fame, money, and wild charisma was a man spiraling out of control. Sheen burst onto the Hollywood scene in the 1980s with unforgettable performances in Platoon and Wall Street. His talent and charm made him a star, but the spotlight also fed his appetite for excess. By his early 20s, Sheen's life was already a blur of wild parties, cocaine binges, and endless bottles of booze. What started as partying quickly turned into addiction. Sheen's personal and professional life began unraveling. Missed work, failed relationships, and shocking behavior made headlines. In 1990, things took a dark turn when he accidentally shot his fiancée, Kelly Preston. That incident led him to rehab for the first time, but it was far from the last. For decades, Sheen bounced between recovery and relapse. His erratic behavior eventually got him fired from 2.5 Men in 2011, and later that year, he was hospitalized for pancreatitis. Doctors warned him that if he didn't quit drinking, he wouldn't live to see his next birthday. In 2017, after breaking a promise to his daughter while drunk, Sheen finally decided to get clean. He's now been sober for nearly 6 years and has focused on rebuilding his life, proving that even Hollywood's most notorious party animal can turn things around.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir.
Sit down, please.
Number 9. John Barrymore. This classical actor of the early 1900s was from the famed Barrymore family of thespians and praised as one of the greatest of his generation. He became known for playing sympathetic alcoholic characters on film, ironic, as he himself was a raging alcoholic. Although known for his fantastic Shakespearean enactments, his performance as Mr. Hyde, and later his role as Sherlock Holmes, his tragic youth and difficult later years escalated his drinking to the point that his second wife once caught him trying to drink her cologne. He appeared later on in a hit comedy film called Dinner at 8, directed by George Cukor and released in 1933. He starred in one of his first films as a drunkard, an alcoholic actor. However, it wasn't many years later that his career was finally ruined due to his habit of returning to the bottle due to the effect that liquor had on his memory. From the year 1936 on, he needed cue cards to complete his roles. A few of these roles would chronicle the tale of a man who sinks into a life of drinking and debauchery, and his hands shook uncontrollably. 1942, at the age of 60, struggling with cirrhosis, kidney disease, and chronic edema, he finally crumpled and died not too soon after.
Give me some money.
Oh, no. Huh?
Money.
Baby, you just missed it. She was walking.
I've seen her before.
Number 8. Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp, the Hollywood icon known for his eccentric roles and undeniable talent, has faced his own battles with addiction. While his performances have captivated audiences for decades, his personal life has often mirrored the chaos of his on-screen characters. Depp's struggles with alcohol and drugs date back to his early 20s. He's openly admitted to using substances as a way to cope with stress and emotional pain. Over the years, this dependence impacted his personal life, including high-profile relationships with Winona Ryder, Kate Moss, and Vanessa Paradis. Despite his success, Depp's addictions began to overshadow his career. Stories surfaced about him showing up late or completely hungover on film sets, causing tension with directors and co-stars. His struggles hit a new low during his highly publicized legal battles with ex-wife Amber Heard, where substance abuse became a focal point. In multiple interviews, Depp has reflected on his journey, admitting to periods of heavy drinking and drug use. He also shared his efforts to seek help, entering rehab several times since 1998. Today, Depp continues to focus on his recovery while using his fame to speak out about addiction and mental health, encouraging others to seek the support they need. Number 7. Peter O'Toole. Peter O'Toole was one of the most iconic actors of his time, with 8 Academy Award nominations and unforgettable performances, especially in Lawrence of Arabia. He was known for his immense talent, both in film and theater, but his personal life, that was a different story altogether. O'Toole's relationship with alcohol was legendary, starting early in his career. During the filming of Lawrence of Arabia, his wild drinking sprees in Beirut became part of Hollywood lore, and by the time he was making Beckett in 1964, he was reportedly drunk through the entire shoot. The man was so notorious for his drinking that he once took a date to a play in Soho, only to realize he was starring in it. O'Toole and his drinking buddies were so carefree, they ended up in places they'd never planned to be. He famously recalled having a beer at one's local in Paris and waking up in Corsica. At one point, he didn't even know about President John F. Kennedy's assassination, having been drunk enough to miss the news for 22 years. It wasn't until O'Toole started suffering from severe abdominal pain that he finally gave up alcohol, but the damage had already been done. His health declined rapidly, and in 2013, O'Toole passed away in a London hospital, a tragic end to a life marred by years of drinking and chain smoking.
There's one of the
Number
finest
6.
little-
Marie Provost. Marie Provost was a talented Canadian-born actress who had a remarkable 20-year career in Hollywood, starring in 121 silent and sound films. Despite her success, her personal life spiraled out of control due to years of alcohol abuse. By the time she was 40, the damage from her alcoholism was too much for her body to handle. January 1937, Marie passed away from acute alcoholism, leaving behind a tragic story of wasted potential. At the time of her death, Provost's estate was worth a mere $300, a shocking reflection of how she had squandered most of her earnings over the years. The Hollywood community was deeply affected by her death, and it led to the creation of the motion picture and television Country House and Hospital, an establishment designed to care for aging or struggling actors. Marie's story, like many others, serves as a harsh reminder of how fame and addiction can sometimes go hand in hand, leading to untimely and heartbreaking endings. Her once promising career was cut short by the grip of alcohol, leaving fans and colleagues to wonder what could have been had she been able to overcome her demons.
Am I supposed to give you a divorce?
I'd like you to.
Number 5. Richard Burton. Richard Burton was one of Hollywood's biggest stars, known for his deep voice, incredible acting chops, and, of course, his famous love affair with Elizabeth Taylor. He was even considered a successor to the great Laurence Olivier, with iconic roles in films like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, which earned him an Oscar nomination. But behind the scenes, things weren't so glamorous. Burton admitted to starting drinking at just 12 years old, and by the time he hit his lowest, he was downing 3 bottles of vodka a day. On the set of The Klansman, he could barely stand up, often taking shots while sitting or lying down. And off-screen, he once knocked back 21 shots of tequila before diving into the ocean, all because of a shark sighting. In 1974, Burton had a near-death experience after a serious binge, and just a few years earlier, doctors had warned him that his drinking would kill him. His kidneys had swelled up, and by the 1980s, his spine was covered in alcohol crystals. Despite all the warnings, Burton's career came to a tragic end in 1984 when he died at 58, his body ravaged by years of alcoholism.
Ooh, you look good in that tupa. Some people don't, but you do. It's flattering to you. Thanks.
Number 4. Rip Torn. Rip Torn, the veteran actor, best known for roles in Men in Black and Dodgeball, had a shocking run-in with the law in 2010. At 79 years old, he was arrested for breaking into a bank with a loaded gun in Connecticut. Police found him inside Litchfield Bank Corp after the alarm went off, and he was nearly 3 times over the legal alcohol limit. Torn faced several charges, including carrying a firearm without a permit, burglary, and criminal mischief. His lawyer stated in court that Tom was struggling with alcohol abuse and needed help, even offering immediate treatment. Judge released him on $100,000 bail, ordering a substance abuse evaluation. Torn reportedly believed he was at his own home, a mile and a half away, and even tried to sleep in the bank, asking the police what they were doing in his house. This wasn't his first brush with the law due to alcohol. In 2009, Torn received probation after a drunk driving case in Connecticut and had already been arrested twice for DUI in New York. In 2004, he was involved in a car collision with a taxi, and a TV video of his arrest showed him swearing at officers and refusing a breathalyzer. In 2006, collided with a tractor trailer while drunk and was sentenced to probation after pleading guilty. Torn, nominated for an Oscar in 1983 for Cross Creek, was also known for his volatility. In one notorious incident, he brawled with Norman Mailer during the filming of Maidstone, hitting the director on the head. Despite the chaos, Torn remained a beloved figure in Hollywood.
Is this showing proper respect for the law?
I never saw the law fall in his face before.
Number 3. Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn was the ultimate ladies' man, the definition of masculinity and virility. He's remembered as the quintessential swashbuckling hero, playing iconic roles like Robin Hood and Captain Blood. But off-screen, his life was a wild ride of excess, filled with booze, brawls, women, and even cocaine. Flynn was known for his serious love of alcohol, and he even had a drinking buddy in Fidel Castro. His Malibu bachelor pad, which he shared with actor David Niven, was so infamous for the amount of booze consumed that it earned the name Cirrhosis by the Sea. And it wasn't just at home. Flynn threw outrageous parties on his private boat, fueled by sex, alcohol, and cocaine. He even showed up drunk to film sets, once betting the crew $500 that he could hook up with his co-star, Olivia de Havilland. His over-the-top lifestyle caught up with him. In his early 30s, he collapsed in an elevator, and doctors told him his heart and lungs were damaged. But Flynn didn't slow down. He kept living hard. And at just 50, he passed away from a heart attack, his body ravaged by years of drinking and excess.
Oh, you should see the Colosseum, Spaniard. 50,000
Number 2.
Romans.
Oliver Reed. Oliver Reed was a huge star in Britain during the late 60s and early 70s, with unforgettable roles in films like The Trap, Oliver, and The Three Musketeers. But off-screen, let's just say he wasn't exactly the charming gentleman his characters might suggest. Reed once admitted, "I do not live in the world of sobriety," and that couldn't be more accurate. Fellow actor David Hemmings once said Reed could drink 20 pints of lager, chase it with gin or creme de menthe, and still run a mile for a bet. And in one wild feat, he drank 126 pints of beer in 24 hours and then did a handstand on the bar. He was known for causing chaos when he was drunk, whether it was getting into fights, cheating, or just causing a scene. One of his most famous stories? In 1980, Reed showed up to a christening so drunk he swayed while standing. At the reception, he held the baby like a rugby ball and stumbled around the room. He was also known for flashing his tattooed penis and calling it his mighty mallet. Oh, and don't forget the time he climbed a chimney naked pretending to be Santa Claus, when he pissed on the Australian flag and passed out drunk on an airport baggage conveyor. Reed's wild lifestyle finally caught up with him before he could finish shooting his final film, Gladiator. After a night of drinking 8 bottles of beer, 3 bottles of rum, and several shots of whiskey, he suffered a heart attack and passed away shortly after. Looking back on his chaotic life, Reed said his only regret was that he didn't drink every pub dry and sleep with every woman on the planet.
It's raining pretty hard.
I got my card.
Number 1. Humphrey Bogart. Humphrey Bogart is often hailed as the greatest male actor in Hollywood, known for roles in Casablanca, The Maltese Falcon, and The African Queen. With multiple Oscar nominations, his place in Hollywood history is undisputed. But behind the scenes, Bogart had a serious drinking problem. One of his friends once said, "Bogart's a hell of a nice guy until around 11:30 p.m. After that, he thinks he's Bogart," referring to his transformation when drunk. He could become angry, stubborn, and even abusive, and his drinking started to affect his work. On set, he'd sometimes show up hungover or intoxicated, one time even riding a bicycle around the Warner Brothers studio in his pajamas instead of working. His offset behavior was just as chaotic. Once, he drunkenly walked out of a restaurant with their safe, abandoning it on Beverly Hills Boulevard. He also found himself in court after assaulting women who tried to steal a toy panda he had brought with him as a drinking companion. Despite socializing with fellow drinkers like Richard Burton and Frank Sinatra, Bogart's drinking habits caused so much trouble that he was banned from several pubs and clubs. Sadly, his love for alcohol and smoking took a toll on his health. In 1956, he was diagnosed with cancer and died shortly after. Even in his final days, he was never far from a glass of sherry. He once joked that he had been sober only once in his life, calling it the most miserable afternoon of his life. And that wraps up our look at some of the most notorious alcoholics in Hollywood history. From the heights of fame to their lowest points, these stars' battles with addiction have shaped their careers and lives in unimaginable ways. Let us know in the comments which story shocked you the most. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.